lot of activities happening, and I really want to say all this we are also both good and bad, and where we did see also where one of the things already coming up where I've been talking about Speaker Anita Among discarding Theodore Sechikubo and the group's censure motion. And remember last week we did see a court also declaring this as legal, something that did not go on well with some of the section of the legislators and members of the public who have also often raised doubts into this judgment that was done in the courts, as this matter was looking forward to be presented before, that is the House, to be debated if these members can be censored. And now information that comes in from there is now the Speaker of Parliament has written a letter, that is the group also saying that this matter won't be brought before her. And one person also, one quote I was able to see is that not in my house. And that is something also which we did see happening over the weekend. But what does that mean? And what does that tell of our democracy system, or else our judicial system, and also the other arms of government? And this is where also we need to understand that where House of Speaker Anita Among has blocked the pending tabling and debate of motion also to censor 4 backbench commissioners of Parliament who received, that is a service award of shillings 1.7 billion, which they shared amongst themselves, and which was termed to be corruption. But now we are seeing what we call the other court also saying that this matter was actually not illegally, and it is one person now who is to answer these questions, not the legislators who bagged this 500 million and others taking 400 million themselves. And notable among the names that actually received the money in this saga, we do have Matthias Mpuga, a former leader of parliament, former leader of opposition in parliament. That is where we did see him taking 500 million. We do have our own Esther Foyachan, who received 400 million in here. We have Solomon Sirwanyi, who as well took 400 million, and also the Ikampurira, who also really took 400 million in there. Something that didn't go on well with the section of the members of parliament, led by, that is Theodore Sechikubo, the Luemiyaga County Member of Parliament, together with our own Leonie Odria York, who actually joined the list, also already have this motion be moved, that is already in there. But now we are seeing that this motion wouldn't be moved any further. It will be able to remain where it is. But what does that mean to these legislators? Are they going to be giving up with their dream of having these colleagues censored? Definitely, I do not know. But then the opinion remains entirely into your hands. You have the best answers and the best also really of what you think should be done in that, what could have gone wrong, because many are now raising doubt over this matter. But why would they have doubt if at all the issue was a bit transparent? And in August also 16th letter addressed to the Luemiyaga County Member of Parliament, that is Theodore Sechikubo, the lead proponent of the censure motion. Speaker says the issues raised in the motion have been already addressed in a court ruling in there. But now many people have actually been saying that this court ruling happened when the judiciary was for holiday, and this is also really where we did see many people now doubting. And what maybe what were the minutes? Because some of the lawyers could be asking this. I do understand that sometimes already for a judgment to become up at, it must be beyond reasonable doubt. And are we going to be seeing them appealing? Because they still have room that is to appeal this, and that is where we are going to be following up on that. And I wouldn't want to talk much on that because it is a matter still within courts of law, and definitely when the right decision will be coming out of Parliament and the courts of law, I will be informing you as we get to move on with the show. And remember also really as well, and we did see also really so many stories happening, that is also really regionally and also within a rural city not being left out. And so many things, both good and bad, happened. And on a sad note, we were able to also see lightning striking, also really killing one person in Zombo district and leaving a house also really burnt in there. And this is where we did see at least 3 people injured. And the tragic incident happened, that was on Friday afternoon, that is in China Cell in Abira West Ward, that is Zombo Town Council. And that is something also really which was on a sad note for the region, as we lost also already 1 innocent person in there and 3 others left injured, plus a house being burnt. That is where also already we did see that happening. And I really want to say, may the soul of the deceased rest in eternal peace, and may also really God give courage to those who also really were dependents, or who's this person who died from also really hails in there. And that is where also really I wouldn't very much want to talk on as more details that I will be coming through in our subsequent news bulletins of the Lembangia, and not forgetting Eolaza and the Nalcast as well in there, and more details that will be coming through And I wouldn't want to talk very much into that. But really to look at some of the stories that continue to happen over the weekend, we did see quite many happening where a total of about 3,000 students were passed out student patriots. That was at Arua Primary School playgrounds in a colorful ceremony graced by leaders both at the national and regional level. And in Arua City, this was actually one activity that did take place, that is at Arua Primary School playgrounds, which was quite interesting because we did see the students smartly dressed in the patriotism uniform. But now the members of the public have also really as well issued queries into what motive also really could be pushing for the students to be trained as patriots. But one thing I can't be able to solely inform them is that government of Uganda is actually trying to make sure that the student and the people, the masses, as well as everybody in the country get to love the country, because if at all they love the country according to the dream, nobody would wish to also really harm the country. And that's why we would be able to sort of avoid tendencies of corruption, which also really has eaten up the country. And I believe all that could be addressed simply if at all people did not engage in corruption, because corruption has derailed the country in attaining development in many aspects. And that is a reason as to why today the government of Uganda is coming up also with initiatives of such as patriotism, to have the learners, first of all, who are the future leaders, be trained also really with what we call the ideological doctrine of patriotism, because once somebody gets to love the country, and once they take up such positions, then nobody would wish to engage in what we call corruption. And at the end of the day, the country would also really run smoothly as planned in there. And that is where we did see that happening. That's at the Arua Primary School playgrounds, and where over 3,500 plus 779 candidates were as well passed in there, because the number was at 3,579 candidates who successfully completed training in what we call patriotism after undergoing the training for months, because some of the schools did the training for several months, others for 2 weeks, others for 3 weeks. But all in all, they were now officially and jointly passed out. That is at Arua Primary playgrounds in a colorful ceremony where we did see schools like Varasinia Secondary School, St. George's College, Jombati, Soma SS, Arua Secondary School, Arua Islamic, and many, many others also really turning up to grace the event. And I want to assure you that it was smartness where we did see the learners were actually smartly dressed, as others were actually saying that these people are to be trained as soldiers or police officers. But I'm saying that is not the case. The case is quite simple. Government of Uganda is looking out at making the learners love the country. Because if at all you love your country, you wouldn't also really wish to hurt it, because just even if you love somebody, just like loving somebody, if you love somebody out there, then I believe you too will not wish to see the person go through hell. And you wouldn't be the one also to want to see the person hurt in there. And that is why the government of Uganda today, under his able leadership of that is His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, as they usually claim, as they usually call him, as also somebody who has been a diplomatic leader in there. Now they are looking forward to make sure that the citizens who are right now the future leaders, who are within the secondary schools, also get to love their country. And I want to say this wasn't an activity for only the Ugandan students. I was able to see parade groups also being led by South Sudanese, and I was able to also really see other nationals also really being part of the parade. That means as Uganda, we are one. We, as we also continue to talk about Pan-Africanism, we already exhibiting that as a nation, because I was able to see a parade commands being led by South Sudanese, others being led by Congolese. We had our Ugandans, both girls and boys, leading the parades. And I want to say it was quite an interesting activity. For you who missed, then definitely you shouldn't miss out on watching out. That also will be coming shortly in our subsequent news bulletins, where you will be able to see how the parade was colorful, because we did see also it being graced by leaders right from the National Corps of Patriotism, that is from Kampala, and also really our leaders led by Charles Chogor. And this did take place at Arua Primary School playgrounds on Saturday, which was something quite interesting. And I really want to say, seeing such activities, then in my own opinion would also mentor and motivate the learners in future to join the forces, because we want to see the force, our strong UPDF also the one time also be replaced by the new brooms. And who are the new brooms? It is definitely also what we call the learners in there, and I wouldn't also want to go on with that. And over the weekend also as well, on Saturday still, we did see also 10 million being also handed over to the Kebu Kingdom, also courtesy of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, after a request also really by a section of the leaders from the region, led by, that is, Presidential Advisor on NGOs, that is Honorable Grace Kuching Freedom. And this incident also did take place in Zombo, and this is where we did see also the Kebo Kingdom. This was during the one of the burial of one of the paramount chiefs, and I really want to say it was also really an activity that we did see all happening over the weekend, and now the money also really has been received partly, and I want to say it is also really where we did see the president continuing to also really comment and also really see activities. That means that the president, who actually reinstalled the chiefdoms in the country, is actually one person who also looks forward to supporting them, because many of the times we have our kingdoms that play a crucial role, but others are not being supported. Others actually do not know where exactly to go to for support. But now in Kebo, we did see that happening. They did receive support, and we are looking forward to more support to come to these kingdoms, as well as others who have not yet also received the support from the head of state in there, because we have to get a national cake, and that is one thing also which we did see happening in there. And after also the request by sectional leaders led by Honorable Grace Kuching Freedom, that dream also really came in there, and that is one thing also really where we must also really honor our leaders. If at all we have them, then definitely we should also really continue to ask them to also really go and ask for more, because we as individuals, we may not have the capacity of going to lobby for such funds, but such leaders definitely would also play that crucial role in terms of also going to these offices and knock the doors. And once they knock the doors, sometimes they can't be able to be heard faster more than any other individual out there, and that is where we are going to be leaving the discussions for the first half of the show. And this is the KOKOLIRIKO live show with me, Farish Majid. We are going to be taking our first commercial break, and when we return back, we still have lots more prepared for you, as always, as on weekends, as we return back on also on the weekdays. On Mondays like this, what we give you is a comprehensive analysis right from Friday up to Sunday and Monday morning, and this is where also you get to have the details in there. But for now, let's take this quick breather and we get back to you shortly.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, the team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from that short commercial break. We are back with the KOKOLIRIKO live show, the Monday edition, and today happens to be the 19th day into the month of August. From wherever you are watching us from, welcome aboard, and this is the show definitely that will be leaving you impacted with information in there, because one person who is informed definitely wouldn't also really make certain decisions that are not also really informed and well guided in there. And to have well guided decisions, then definitely you need that information. And where will you get that information from? It is only on the West Nile TV KOKOLIRIKO live show that will be giving you updates also on what continues to happen locally and internationally, as well as also really across what we call overseas. And that is where I will be also really touching something small later on. But as we get to move on with the show, as we get to return from the weekend, over the weekend also we did see a number of activities happening. One of the things already was the burial of, that is Joseph Tamale Mirundi, one of the prominent journalists who was actually also the president of UJA. UJA is Uganda Journalists Association. He was at the helm of that, and really to also lose him like that, that means we cannot just let our colleague also really go unnoticed like that, as we get not talk about him, because UJA is actually the umbrella body for all the journalists in Uganda. And really we did see its former president, that is Joseph Tamale Mirundi, who has also really been a political analyst and a political commentator, also really dying and was buried over the weekend. That is in his ancestral home, that is in Rakai, and we did see that happening. But really one issue that people have not necessarily been abiding by is the request by this man to be buried while standing, because in his will during one of the television interviews he actually requested to be buried while standing and with his head out, so that he can be able to solely see whoever is to come closer to his also widows in there. And that is one thing also really, if you can be able to see the man who is smiling on the screen, he is the one actually that we are talking about. And that time he was actually very young, and he was also really the presidential press secretary, and that means also really he was one of the prominent leaders and the relatives of the late veteran journalist and also a former presidential press secretary Joseph Tamale Mirundi also really have announced that they will not honor his request, and indeed they didn't honor the request of burying him also really while standing, to also really see that he can be able to solely see whoever is to come closer to his wives. And that is one thing also what we did see happening. And according to Luasa Mirundi, known for his punch and for humor and jokes, also already made many whimsical statements throughout his life, and he always made funny statements to make people laugh, and that is why they didn't take maybe him serious. And that is one thing also which we did see happening. And this was he was now buried in Matali Kalagara, and this was in Rakai district in a funeral function attended by so many leaders, and we were able to already see the vice president also joining, and many other mourners also really being part of that. And one of the requests the mother to this also really late also veteran journalist made was also really to meet the president, and the mother was not able to also really see how his son was buried because of age. And that was something also which we did see happening. That was in Raqqa yesterday, and really we continue to also really pray for this soul to rest in eternal peace, because he, due to his humor, many people actually laughed as they continue watching him, and many of us actually also really got motivated and also really inspired by some of his comments, and we were able to also really see one-on-one with him. And really that was something also really what we cannot also really forget and go unnoticed of him in there. And I wouldn't also really want to talk very much out of that, and we are running out of time, and I really want to say it being a weekend, as the beginning of the week, we saw a lot of activities happening over the weekend, and really which we cannot also really be able to sort of live in there, and to leave the stories against also on the manner side. We were able to sort of see Parliamentary Accounts Committee camping in Arua City for about 2 days to also really make sure that the local governments within West Nile sub-region also really get to respond on the money government has been able to sort of give them in there. And some of the local governments actually performed poorly. I wouldn't wish to also hide that. And in the second day, we were able to sort of see districts like Maracha and also Madiokolo and the rest also not performing to the expectations. And Maracha Tumei, this May was actually thrown out, as also we did see them not coming with the cow, because also for these meetings to go on, you are actually required to also come before before the committee with the cow, who is the accounting officer, or else the vice. But also for Maracha, the case was a bit different, where they didn't have also the cow and neither the vice was also around. So what the committee did was throw them out and request them now to move to Kampala, and that is only where they are going to move there at their own bill. And you can see how much money is going to be wasted as they will be now going to Kampala in there. And now districts also like Arua, cities like Arua City, and I really want to say government like Arua City and Zombo performed very well, and we were able to solely see them also take minimal time, because the questions that they were being asked, we are also really well guided and well answered by them. And for Arua City, one of the issues also where they were praised is the relation also and the issue where they also presented very well, and when it comes to issues of money being allocated and how money is being generated, because one thing that we're being asked is how they're mobilizing revenue. And I really want to say the IRAS is actually working for Arua City, is doing magic, and that means as taxpayers we should embrace what we call the online payment of taxes, which is also going to be avoiding the leakages in tax collection as alluded. And I really want to say Arua City was actually praised for that, and all in all now as also they are praised. We expect one thing, we expect services to improve, because for them before the committee they did well, but now before us the citizens, as the locals who demand the services, how are they going to be also serving us? That is where we expect them to do very much better. Issues like roads, issues like garbage management need to improve, because really if you look at some of the areas now, we are seeing the issues of garbage disposal anyhow returning back after also the months of cleanness within the city in there. But now that means following the praise and also the acknowledgement of the park, definitely we expect one thing, we expect services to improve. We expect the roads also that are dilapidated to be improved as well, if at all we have the monies. And that is where also the roads, for instance, the Wadrift Road also that connects Hospital Road to Wadrift Road, really that is a danger spot. As earlier on I was coming, a vehicle that was planning to dodge that road just developed a mechanical problem at the junction in there, and that is also pushing and also putting the lives of the road users at danger. What if somebody rams into this vehicle any day? That is where also we would also want to see that. We wouldn't want to see that. But I am informing them once again that road is really in a bad status. If at all they're not aware of it, I really want to inform them that that road really would also claim a life anytime. And of course, we wouldn't want to see somebody die in there, but really it is in a dangerous position where we're seeing the iron bars coming out and also look up in the skies. Definitely that is really not right. We may see somebody ramming into that also, and the iron bar also piercing somebody, and that is where we're saying that road needs to be renovated and needs to be rehabilitated if at all the money is there. And really last week also, according to information some of the leaders, they already also aware as they are going to be working on that road there. But when will they work on the road? Definitely these are questions also really we need to also have answers to, because if at all we don't have answers to that, then definitely we will need also really want to continue with that in there. We may see the same saga like what happened in Chitezi also really happening in Arua City in there. And end of yesterday we were able to also see a toddler's body being recovered. That's from the Chitezi incident, where we did see heaps of garbage also really creating havoc and killing also so many people in there. But that is also really what we would also wish to see in Arua City, because if we see that happening in there, then definitely that would also really be very good for us, because as Arua City we must also really be the model city, because as a city things that we are supposed to be doing must also really reflect that indeed we're in a city. And really one of the issues really I feel very much bad always when I see it happening in Arua City is the issue of garbage management. And really I wouldn't also really want to talk very much on that, as anytime from now we would also really wish to have the leaders also really join us and explain where the gaps of garbage management is, because many times they talk about the trucks. What about the money the citizens continue to pay as taxes? Can this money buy what we call the trucks or the caterpillars that are supposed to be there to also really make sure that the services are okay? These are questions already which I would also really want to have answers following the appraisal by also really what we call the Service Commission in there, and I wouldn't also want to go on with more of that, and more details that also will be coming later on in our subsequent news programs. And I wouldn't also want to dwell much on that. And now, leaving that aside, General Muhoozi sends what we call conflicting message on Mawanda corruption case. Is another story that also really we are seeing on the papers this morning, because really the issue also really has been raising a lot of alarm, with many saying, how can he come up with such a statement? And that is one thing also which we did see happening, and the message also I believe was now retrieved. And that is one thing also which we did see happening. Could it be a mistake? I definitely don't know, but really that is something also which we did see happening. And really I want to say it was quite a good also move also to see that happening. Was it also good? Because we are seeing Mawanda, who is actually a member of what we call the PLU, who also was arrested following also the corruption scandal, where he was also held responsible for also taking some money belonging to cooperatives in there, and that is the money he is being investigated for. And that is one thing which I really feel also I couldn't also go unnoticed of, and I really want to talk about. And now the Chief of Defense Forces, General Kainerugaba Muhoozi, has once again ignited debate with a series of controversial posts on X, formerly known as on Twitter, on Thursday evening, where General Muhoozi also who is the first son and patriotic leader of Uganda, claimed that the Bushenyi's Igara East Member Parliament, Michael Mawanda, is being prosecuted in his ongoing corruption trial. And he actually said the reason as to why the man is being also tried is because he belongs to the PLU. How true is that? And now Mawanda was arrested on June 19th after police investigation also found him culpable of that is shedding 7 billion. Corruption case also really related to cooperative war loss compensation, where he actually came out. My friend Michael Mawanda is in prison, and they think we shall stay quiet forever, while people also really who have stolen from this country for decades are still ministers. And that is actually where we did see him also really raising that question. But who is the appointing body for the ministers and to the ministerial positions? Because we have ministers, yes indeed, who had records of also being tried before and also after corruption scandals. But I wouldn't want to go one on one. But I can say we have them. Definitely he is true. But how exactly and how true is the statement? And Mawanda, alongside Busi County Member Parliament Paul Akamba and former Trade Permanent Secretary, that's Geraldine Sali, are currently also facing charges related to shillings, that is a 7 billion corruption case, and all remain on remand. Much to be apparent also already that frustration of the General Muhoozi, who expressed that Muzei, his father, President also should hear out a cry for change, and that is one thing also which we did see happening. And now General Muhoozi, who previously sparked outrage in Kenya with his controversial tweets in 2022, has positioned himself as a campaigner for what we call civic reforms under the PLU banner, which he claims rallies the youths to promote what we call patriotism and fight corruption. And this is where we're going to be seeing 2026 youths being divided, and many are going to be taking different paths, because we are still seeing the same ideology and the same also really targeting the same also really the same group in there. And how are we going to be seeing that happening? And I really want to say we look forward to that, and that would also really be coming later on. And as we get moving on the show, remember so many of these activities also really shall be discussed in detail. And really for that statement also that tweet, many people have actually generated mixed reactions, with others supporting him, while others also condemning the tweet. And all in all, we are saying he posted it, and really that is one thing also which however his recent statements appear to contradict also the ethos of the PLU, as he described Mawanda as a figure whose guilt or innocence is still under judicial review, and as a political prisoner in there. My friend Michael Mawanda is in prison, and I think we shall stay quiet. That means a lot. And now so far the judiciary and the Uganda Law Society have not commented on General Muhoozi's remarks and how they might also impact the independence of judiciary and the ongoing what we call legal process. And on social media, however, the reactions have been mixed. And Wamanya Wakabirigi also on Twitter reminds General Muhoozi that the leaders also really referred as politically dilapidated were the same also really individuals who fought alongside his father to liberate Uganda. And what does that mean? Definitely, that is also where I wouldn't also really want to go on with that question. Leaving that aside, vacate buffer zones. Also before another landslide happens, KC Executive Director Saka warns, and that's something also where we see Kampala Capital Authority Executive Director, that is Dorothy Saka, has asked the residents, that is of Lusanja, who are living within the 200-meter buffer zone, to vacate all the premises before another garbage slide also takes place in there. And that is where he made the appeal for the people to also really move away from the buffer zone. Why? Because also of the continuing rains, where it says that this is a danger that may also get another slide, and that itself might continue flooding that is into the house, according to the KCA Executive Director. In that, she also revealed that the leadership of KCA are looking forward for a lasting solution to the garbage. We cannot also really bring more garbage to Stacey in the situation as it is in, according to KCA Executive Director. That means for now they will also really wish to take more garbage in there, and so the government and KCA are doing all it takes to also find alternative places where garbage can be dumped. And remember, in Entebbe recently we did see also some people coming out also to refuse garbage from being dumped in their places. But how does that mean, and what exactly does that mean to the garbage management in the country, and what does that tell of our garbage management as a country? Because you see all around, you can only praise one city. If at all we talk about garbage and cleanness, today you mentioned like 3 names, which also include, among others, Fort Portal. We mentioned cities like Gulu. What about the rest? What is happening to them, and what should they be able to also learn from these model cities as we move on? And you cannot also come out to mention Kampala, because Kampala is also really one of the cities which I must say is not also really among the cleanest. And what does that also really mean? And what should we do to make sure also the leadership from that side gets to learn something? Because if we talk about garbage management, I do understand it is actually one of those difficult components of governance, because managing garbage is actually very, very much difficult and a bit costly. But what does that mean to our people who also generate this garbage? And that is where we're saying, you as citizens, we should learn one thing, that is to make sure that the garbage that we are also already dumping in there is actually one that is actually sorted, so that it makes it quite difficult. Or else, let's burn the garbage by ourselves at our home, also other than also wanting to also have it be moved by the trucks also in there. Now we did start commended the well-wishers who have donated both food and non-food items to the survivors, adding that also members from the 15 markets of Kampala have continuously sent food to the camp and also support the victims of the slide. And among the donors at the camp, we are the Islam also Circles of Uganda, a Muslim charitable also organization that also has donated a consortium of items that is to the Stacey garbage victims, which includes about 1.4 tons of maize flour and clothes, among others. We also did see Red Cross also there as well in there, plus many, many others. And the team was led by Elias, also Luimbas in Nanarukula, and Sheikh Yasin Chiwewa, the director of Dawa, and the Office of the Supreme Mufti, who handed over the donation to Saka, and officials of Red Cross in there. Now Sheikh Chiwewa and Nanarukula thanked the government for the timely response, but underscored the need for what we call quick arrest resentment planned for the victims, because many of them are still there and did not know where exactly they will be going after in there, because many are now looking at the place also really as a place that is not well. And I need want to say it is actually not safe, because we are seeing with the rain, some of the garbage also keeps developing cracks. That means anytime we may see them also rolling and break houses. But how ready are we to vacate the places, and how prepared are the victims to vacate the places? Because all in all, we need to understand, and I want to say, when the time comes for them to vacate the places, it should also happen that way, because we wouldn't want to see people still also suffering with the issues of garbage, and also garbage killing people. And that is where it becomes very, very much difficult, because it leaves you, first of all, helpless, and at the end of the day, we are going to be seeing lives being lost, we are going to be seeing property being destroyed, we are going to be seeing people subjected to what we call trauma and psychological breakdown, and we need to avoid that. And that is where government of Uganda needs to come out with proper, also what we call emergency response. And if at all we have that, then definitely we wouldn't also really wish to see many people die. And if we have the emergency response in place, at the end of the day, we are going to be seeing the lives of people die during such disaster being reduced. Then secondly, if at all we can detect the disasters ahead of time and also have the citizens being prepared, that also would also in its way prepare and also leave the citizens also away from danger. And that is where also we are going to be leaving that aside. And also as we get move on with the show, Museveni urges NRM caucus members to prioritize mass line principles over elite interests. Is another story that we are seeing in the papers. And this is where we did see President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on Friday, August 16th, held discussions with members of the National Resistance Movement Party, a caucus also which did take place that that is at State House in Tebe. And during the meeting also the President asked the members to realign the priorities, emphasizing the importance of adhering to the NRM principles. And the President also reminded the caucus of members of the fundamental principles of the NRM and historical approach to resolving contradictions with the party and the government. And according to the release from State House, President Museveni also stressed the importance of the must line, a principle that has guided the NRM since its inception. And he highlighted the NRM has historically prioritized the needs and the rights of the masses over the elite, ensuring that the voices of Ugandans are all heard and addressed as well. In the President also recounted that party's long-standing commitment to inclusive priorities such as immunization of all, education for all, prosperity for all, and security for all, as well as also other issues in there. And that is one thing also we did see happening, where the President called upon the mass, also the party leaders, to also really adhere to the NRM principles. And on education, the President also expressed serious concerns over the actions of head teachers in government-aided schools who are allegedly also really undermining the country's free education scheme by imposing unauthorized fees on learners. And today you realize that the UPE schools, some are paying money, which is also really which is also not acceptable, because the government of Uganda continues to give what we call the grants also to these schools, and also what we call the capitation grants and other funds to support the schools either. But you find out the schools are charging even to an amount that is almost to be termed as school fees, but they always say this is welfare money, this is for food, this is for that, and this is for assessment, this is for that. But this is where we are seeing some parents also really finding it difficult to pay for this money, because they take their children to these UPE schools simply because they wouldn't also really afford the money in those private schools. But now when they bring their learners to these government schools and we start charging them, where does that leave the learners at? I want to say many are going to be suffering, and also really many are going to be finding it very difficult to educate their learners, and that would also leave the nation uneducated. And to leave the nation uneducated, definitely we are going to be leaving the children who are the future leaders to suffer. And that is where we're saying this is also another issue where we must join hands and kick out the vice of teachers illegally charging money, which is also really putting parents to suffer also at risk. And if at all they are to charge the monies, I want to say they should first of all engage the AGM, and that is where we're going to be seeing the parents plus many stakeholders coming out to also really understand why this money is to be charged so, and it must also come from the parents to indeed support and also really not judge the motive also of having this money be charged. And that is where I want to say, if at all as the primary school, which is also really universally guided under the UPE, we must make sure that we do not charge these unnecessary monies. And as the head teacher who is watching us right now, I want to say, if at all you want to charge the monies, first of all, engage all the stakeholders. You must call them together, and one of the ways also really that would also really make this possible is actually through the AGMs. And many of the schools also today now hold AGMs where we see them very much discussing on issues of money. Yes, we need to also have the monies be charged, and as our parents, as parents, it is our mandate to also make sure that we pay the learners in school. We give them the necessary requirements. If at all it is food, we must pay so that they eat at school. But really, you move in most of the local governments during lunchtime, you find the learners are trekking long distances. Recently, I was in a rural district in Vura. I was able to also really see learners returning back from school, something which I must say is not happening elsewhere in the other parts of the country. In Western Uganda, learners also through their parents take the food and pack it. If at all they cannot give it to schools to cook for them, they pack it for them also, so that also the learners don't come back to home. And I was in Yumbe, the same scenario. In Maliokolo, the same scenario is happening. And the time these learners waste as they are going back to school is actually where other learners are also really utilizing it to also really make sure that they get to consistent class. Because you look at the boarding schools and the other schools also really across the borders, it is 20 minutes for the learners to also really have lunch. But come to our side, learners are taking more than 1 hour as they are moving around. And that's also really where we are saying it is totally wrong. As parents, we now must also support the schools. We must give them the necessary support. If at all we cannot also pay the money in cash, the schools should pick what is in kind. Donate cassava flour, donate beans, donate tomatoes, donate onions, donate Irish, so that the schools can also prepare this also for the learners in there. And if at all we can also donate these food items, donate firewood, because sometimes the firewood is actually where the schools are going through a lot, so that our learners get to avoid the long time they take trekking back home and back to school, where they waste a lot of money and where they waste a lot of time, which would also be used for constructive activities, and that would also make it possible for them to understand what the teachers are teaching, and really for a person to learn in class with an hungry stomach. Definitely that is only where we're going to be saying this person's mind is going to be divided, because imagine you are being taught, but you are here thinking about hunger. You're going to be thinking about also rushing back home. And sometimes learners walk back home and find nothing, and they also have to go back and now start preparing lunch. It is quite difficult, and it's a difficult situation for the learners as well, and that is where we're saying that shouldn't also happen. As parents, we have to support the learners. We have to give the schools the necessary support. If at all we have cassava flour, let's take it to schools so that all the schools can also prepare this for our learners. And if at all they request for money, let's give the monies, so that our learners who are also at danger of missing out do not also miss out. And that is where we are going to be putting the discussions on hold as we're coming to the end of our first hour in there. But we are not bouncing out. We are going to be getting back to you shortly, and we take a short commercial break. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show with me, Farish Majid. It is the Monday edition, and today is the 19th day into the month of August. In case you're just joining us right now, welcome aboard. But we are taking yet a short commercial break. As we get back to you shortly, stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from the short commercial break. We are back also with the KOKOLIRIKO live show, the Monday edition and the first edition for this week in here. And we are saying welcome back from the short commercial break in case you are just joining us right now. It could be within Western Sub-region in districts of Yumbe, Madiokolo, Terego, Maracha, and many, many others. We are still saying welcome aboard. And for those of you watching us in Western Uganda, in Hoima, Buldisia, Maisindi, Hoima, Fort Porto, and many, many other places, we are still saying, all in all, welcome you on board, and we are saying good morning and welcome aboard. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show. As we get moving on the show, we are still 5 minutes after 8 o'clock now, which is our second hour and our final hour for today's show, and we are going to be doing this with you up to 9 o'clock. But I want to say so many activities happened over the weekend, and I will able to also see Forum for Democratic Change Party also holding what we call mass mobilization and recruitment drive also in Lugazi, which is for the East Buganda region. And that is one thing also we did see happening in Lugazi, where we did see the supporters of the Forum for Democratic Change Party and the leaders also coming together and in a colorful function. And I want to say that is what we are also seeing in the world of politics, as other parties also are as well restructuring ahead of 2026. We are just left with about 15 months now to the next general elections. But how prepared are you as, or maybe as somebody who is also going to be voting? And that is also where we need to also understand the electoral reforms are also going to be coming also aboard anytime from now. And that is where we are going to be saying also as we get moved on with the show, if at all we do not have these electoral reforms, how prepared are we as a nation, and how prepared are you also as a voter in there? And that is where also I wouldn't also want to go on with the discussion. But let's look at some of the stories that continue to happen over the week. We did see so many also issues happening, and on both good and bad. And that is where also we are saying, regardless of what, we move on, because definitely that is one thing also we cannot be able to also run away from. And now talking about one of the bad things, we are able to also see an electrician also shocked and electrocuted on the high voltage power line that is in Ajumani district, and that is where we did see a 29-year-old man identified as Kiza from Kayunga district has died after he was electrocuted while on duty. Another incident occurred along the Pekele Zaipi also road, just a few meters also from Leia Stream, and this is employed by a private company. Reportedly also claimed to work under the assumption that power was off. And really, what happened if at all power was off? Because it's not the very first time we are seeing somebody die as a result of being electrocuted. Because at one time we also did see this happening in Arua city, where a young man also under when the record was electrocuted, just also smashed a long crab in there. But that is something also which we did see happening, and now we also seeing a same scenario being reported though under a different area in Ajuma district. And the main switch at the Tiak service point in Amuri district was still on, leading to the fatal accident in there. But now couldn't there be a communication gap? And this is also really had the assumption that power was off. But how did he get to climb in there thinking that power was off? And now contractors from Meme are currently conducting also maintenance works on the high voltage poles, passing through also that is on the high voltage poles, passing through Ajumani, that is to Moyo, under the management that is of the Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited, which is known as UDECL, and that is where we see now Ajumani District Resident District Commissioner, that is Taban Peter Dada, confirmed the police that visited the scene and retrieved the body, which was later also taken to Ajumani General Hospital for postmortem in there. That is really quite sad, because you get moved on leaving your family behind to hustle and also get something small for them, and you meet your death in there. Quite sad. And this is where also we say, may the soul of this young man who has been hustling also get something also for himself, also rest in the eternal peace. Because at 29 today we have young people who are not working, who are not also willing to work in there, because they feel through criminality they can be able to survive. And we have people who are grabbing people's phones today, and simply because they find that as the best way of earning. But for this young man who was working, really it is quite sad. But we all in all, we say these are all God's plans, and we cannot run away from death, because death is indeed a reality. But also it shouldn't happen under negligence, and that is one thing also which we cannot be able to leave go unnoticed, and also go without warning. Issues of negligence while people are working should also not be happening, because many times these issues come and we see rumors that this person had also called that power was switched off. But how do we avoid, and why don't we first test to see if at all the issues also of electricity are avoided in there? Now, Kampala Capital City Authority, leaving that aside, we did see them also warning, and that is one thing also which is happening. And now we did see also Museveni also urging the elites also to also prioritize mass line principles over also the interests of the people in there. And that is one thing also we did see happening. And now let's jet into Pader, where Pader must displaces scores of residents is another story that we are seeing away from Chitezi. Now in Pader, we are seeing at least 100 households have been displaced in Amoko village, that's in Amoko parish in Latanya sub-county, following also what we call a mudslide that occurred on Saturday night. And now Sunday, Aliela, a local resident, tell journalists that the mudslide was triggered by heavy downpour lasting for over 7 hours in there. That's also where we did see them being displaced, and that is where we did see that disaster happening. Now David Oriem, another resident, also really recounted that I just settled into my house when I heard a sound like RPG, a rocket also really bomb propelled grenade from the hills, and we went also really outside to find muddy water and rocks also rolling into our compound. And that is where we did this. Mr. Oriem described the damage, noting that the trees also meant to contain the mud were toppled, and his maize also really and millet to harvest were being destroyed. And that is where we did see also happening, and that means we need to plant more trees, and which will also hold such mudslides. And that means as locals, more support of northern Uganda, we must embrace what we call planting of trees. And according to Bob Okello, the Latanya sub-county, that's the chairperson, that's been also reported, there have been no reported injuries or fatalities. However, there are concerns that more slides could occur as the rains continue. Now, the landslide is expected to impact additional villages, including that is also the villages of Lamikonyonko, Mokowele, and also the Olagang West in Amoko parish also in there. And that's why we did see it bring together more than 250 households. And that is one thing also which we cannot be able to run away from. Mr. Okello also has noted that excessive rainfall has damaged also the blocked several roads linking that's Amoko parish, that is to other parts of the sub-county, the district in there following the heavy downpour. And that is also the one thing which I want to also remind the people of northern Uganda of, because we are seeing the returns of the rains. But how ready are we for the dangers that this may also be able to come with? Because looking at the rains, we have seen the rains returning. Many people's gardens are going to be destroyed, which we're not praying for. But we are saying we must be ready for whatever it may also happen. And that's also where we are asking the government to also really keep the disaster preparedness ministry in line, also really prepare to be ready if at all we have such disasters. And then response should be quickly and timely in there. Now, leaving that aside, Lira to become integrated industry city is another story that we are seeing in the paper this morning, where Arise Integrated Industrial Platforms is set to establish an industrial city that's in Lira, northern also Uganda part, also to boost the country's economic growth. And the city will also host logistics services, including that industrial and commercial zones, warehouses and container yard, and also will play a significant role in Uganda's emerging textile industry also in there. And now, according to Ms. Rose Malango, the chairperson of what we call Thuamaini Africa Knowledge Center, that is also where we did see the Arise will ensure traceability from the farmers to fashion also for cotton and textile products from Lira, and which will also improve the region's position, that is in textile innovations. That is something which we did see happening. And an 11-member delegation from Uganda, led by State Minister for Agriculture, Mr. Fred Bueno, visited the Republic of Benin to benchmark the Arise, that is a two-project business model. And Mr. Bueno also retweeted that I am leading an 11-man team from Uganda on a 4-day benchmarking visit, that is to Benin also on their cotton and cashew subsectors. And that is one thing also which I feel which would also be of great importance in there, because they will produce the cotton. Looking at also the West Nile sub-region, in Madokoropo plant cotton, we have a whole ginaries in the factory in there, but which lies idle, and that's sort of where we are not seeing the factory also turning that cotton into what we call final products. Yet when you plant cotton, in your district planting cotton, you've also in some parts people planting cotton. But where does this cotton go to? These are questions only which we need to now understand, and we now have to push for, because we need to push for industrialization. And now with the power that is going to also have also big, where we are finally being connected, that should also come as a blessing, where we need more factories, such as factories of textile, which will also make sure the cotton that is being produced here can be turned into final product also by the locals themselves, and that is where we're going to be seeing the factory also processing this year, and that would be my dream, other than also having it be moved to Jinja, and that is one thing also which at the end of the day I would also want to call the Ugandans on. Now someone must be held responsible. That is also in relation to disaster. This in Chitezi, where we did see the Wakiso District RDC, Mr. Frank Chiaze, the Deputy Resident City Commissioner in charge of that's Kasangati Town Council, Wakiso District, has said some government officials must be held responsible for the Chitezi landfill tragedy that has claimed at least 35 persons already and leaving others still missing. And without also mentioning individuals, Mr. Chiaze said also the Chitezi landfill tragedy was not an accident, but a man-made disaster which could have been avoided. And who made the disaster and who is behind the disaster that has claimed lives in there is another question also we should be now investigating by now. And it shows the importance of addressing the root cause of the problem rather than also looking at it at the surface. In another Deputy District Commissioner was speaking at the Chitezi landfill at Standard Town Council, Wakiso District, on Friday as he witnessed the handover of food items such as posho and rice to 700 people who have been displaced by the landfill. Also, in and now the food items handed over were by Good Samaritan, and that's who handed them. That is also related to the Chitezi victims also in there. And Mr. Chaze also dismissed claims that the government has not done enough to help the victims in there, and that is where we're going to be leaving that aside. And I would also want to inform you that this is a developing story, and each and every time any matter arises out of that, and I will also still be able to solely inform you of. And leaving that aside, youth's urge to embrace education and participation for Uganda development is another story that we are seeing in the past morning. This is on the monitor, where the Minister of Education and Sports, Janet Kata Museveni, has emphasized the importance of education in shaping the country's vision, that's of Uganda's youth. That's where we did see her in a speech also read by Haji Ismail Mulindwa, the Director of Basic and Secondary Education at the Youth Development and Exhibition Fest on Friday, where said education is key, that's development of our country, and through education also we acquire knowledge and critical thinking skills. And the First Lady also noted that our ministry's vision is to provide quality education and prepare individuals to engage, and also seeks to contribute to society in meaningful ways. And that means also today, as we talk about the youth who are the majority population, we must encourage them towards patriotism, and we must rally them behind also in loving their country, because if they do not love their country, then definitely we are going to be seeing people not love their country and also harm the country. Now she encouraged the youth to have sense of belonging and identity also, and to work together to build Uganda just as citizens and also as other people also in developed countries also have done. Now the event aimed to promote skills development and also exhibition among Ugandan youth, highlighting also the need for education and patriotism to drive the country's development. And that is where also would also want to talk about. And now leaving that aside, 1 killed, 2 injured in fresh Tororo wetland clashes is another story that we are seeing in the past morning, where 1 person has been confirmed dead after he was hacked to death during fresh land clashes between 2 rice growing communities in Nweyo Aruero wetland area on Saturday morning. In the night, this has been identified as John Martin Ofambe Obo, a resident that is of Nweyo East Village, that's Nawenje, that's also in Tororo district. That's also where we did see the issues of evacuation also in wetlands sort of happening. Now cross-boundary clashes between residents of Merikit and Sopsop counties have also left 2 other people seriously injured. That's another thing we are seeing happening in the past morning. And I really want to say these issues of wetlands continue to happen as we also get to see them happening in there. But really, how ready are we as also really as a nation also to address these concerns in there? Now cross-boundary clashes between residents have also really left, that is people dead. Now both counties have been demanding full access to use a wetland on the border of West Butama and Tororo County. That's reported that a scuffle ensued and the farmer was attacked and killed also on spot by farmers wielding pangas and hoes. Is happening. And now the Deputy District Commissioner, who is also the Resident District Commissioner, sorry, Albert Amula, confirmed the incident, saying his body had been retrieved and conveyed to the Tororo General Hospital pending post-mortem in there. But now, how do we avoid issues of taking the laws into their hands, and how can we make the citizens also really do not also take the laws into their hands? Because many of times we see this instance happening, but people at the end of the day take the laws into their hands, which is really quite unfortunate. And now, according to Amula, an assessment also really of the situation on ground show that many acres of rice beds also really in the wetlands were slashed and larger number of cattle stolen from the Merikit side, and that could also be now the reason for the revenge happening. Now, Amula revealed to monitor that also the District Security Committee, which also heads as suspended farming in the wetland until issues also raised by the warring sides are resolved. But how can we allow people go on doing farming activities in wetlands? These are questions that we are seeing, because elsewhere people are being evacuated, but also in Tororo, on a side note, people are fighting over usage of these wetlands. Then the leaders there also should be coming out and answer the questions only which NEMA today is pushing out for, because we see NEMA very, very much seriously pushing on to see that people not also settle in the wetlands today, but in other areas. We are still seeing people solely settling in these wetlands. Then that means we need to do something about that. If at all we are also to see the climate change that we are also very, very much suffering of, that also harm us in there. Now, leaving that aside, a school closed, director arrested over misusing inhabitation fees is another story that we are seeing in the past morning, where the director of Equator High School in Nyendo Mukungwe Municipality, Mr. Leonard Ahimbisibo, is behind bars at Nyendo Police Post over also alleged misuse of students' examination registration fees, and this followed complaints by parents that their children who sat Uganda Certificate of Education and Uganda Certificate of Advanced Education last year have not yet received their results, where a total of 14 students who sat for the UC exams at the school also were, whereas 11 sat for the USCE, but their results were not released. That means that their students were not registered. But how do we eat the money, and where do you get the heart of getting this money as a school director and chew it? And the examination body, Uganda, and the examining body, Uganda National Examination Board, released the results of the UC and USC results in February and March this year also, where we did see now the students who sat not receiving their results. Now it alleged that Mr. Isimizu used the money for 2023 candidates to pay the outstanding debts, and he had also with UNEB in 2022. And now Mr. Good was saying the massacre, Mr. Hood was saying the massacre resident city commissioner say they have also established the school's professional license has also expired. But how do we allow it to continue serving the region and also serve the nation with expired license? And these are questions that deserve answers. Now, he said the decision to close the school is intended to save the 24 candidates who may also face similar fate also in there. Now the school has been closed. But what about the money? The money is going to be refunded. What about the damages that are being credited onto these learners who are supposed to sit for these examinations? These are questions only now that this man who is behind answers should be able to be responded to. And that's one thing at the end of the day where we are going to be seeing also the parents also learning out. But that is only, that should sound as a warning to those people who love also praising the private schools over the government schools. You see a private school emerging, parents abandoning government schools and take their learners in there, and they rush to also pick the learners out of the government schools. And yet such cases are rarely had in the government schools, and that is where we're saying people now must look at the schools which are emerging with two eyes. Look at the fate. Is the school going to be standing the test of time? What is the motive of people opening the schools? These are questions already which at the end of the day that will also save our learners, because look at the whole year being wasted, and now they have to sit again this year and they have to be registered. And these are questions already where we now ask, where will they get the money from, and who is going to be carrying the losses? These are pains already which people go through, because after concentrating for a whole year only to not to receive your results. It's quite sad, it's quite embarrassing in there. Now Mr. Misu says he will share with the detectives during the interrogation what went wrong in there. Now he requests that also affect the parents to be also really paid shillings that 500,000 each. That is their children's results, but they refused, insisting that they had cleared all their school fees dues. But now to be refunded only 500,000 is really, really not enough, and that is where we may see possibly echoing out their concerns. And that is where we're going to be leaving that aside. And now to finally look at also some of the stories that happened this morning, as we get summarized the first half of the second hour with, and remember at 8:30 we are going to be taking another short commercial break that will be ushering us into the final hours of the show. But now, before we get to give you that, many issues will continue to happen over the weekend, where we did see also the focus on serving God's people, ordained Mbarara priests also being told, and now these newly ordained Catholic priests and deacons also from Archdiocese of Mbarara have been challenged not to separate themselves from the realities of people that they will serve, and the call was made during the ordination mass of 13 priests and 17 deacons. That's in Nyamitanga Cathedral Parish, that is Nyamatanga City on Saturday, and that's where we did see them also being called upon now to also not forget serving. Now we did see that happening also, that call being made by President, that's the President Gavas Ndianabo, who also said it is not also a message to these ordained priests and deacons, but even politicians and members of parliament who are here to also really stop glorifying the positions you are in, but also really serve the people. In now the Minister of Trade and Industry and Cooperatives, so that's Mr. Francis Mwebesa, are told the ordained also the priests also to have their more responsibility to carry on than also the title in there. Now it means that they have to serve, and really the clergy play a crucial role in also really making success of certain of these government activities, and that is where we're saying they need to join hands and also to make sure that the success of this program already is yielded. And today, if at all we leave the priests out of these government initiatives, then I want to say many of the projects are going to be stalling, and we're not going to be realizing success out of that, because imagine preaching to the people 5 times a day as Muslims, and now Sundays, imagine talking to over 1,000 people on Sunday, and also thousands on Saturday for the SDAs, and that means the clergy can do a lot when it comes to making sure the government projects make also it a success. Now encourage the clergy to lead the churches of advocating for socio-economic transformation, urging priests also to tell the believers about also the poverty alleviation programs like the parish development model and the Myoga. And we did see Mbarara Archbishop also Grace Lambert by Mugisha also reminded the ordained priests to front their main role of also safeguarding also what we call the Christians. That means he also appreciated also the Christians for encouraging their children also to join and serve God. And today you see many parents who not also want to see their children become what we call clergy. And if at all we don't have the clergy, who is going to preach to the nation, and who is going to make sure that spiritual nourishment is there? Because if at all we not also have people who are going to be preachers, then we are going to be seeing a rotten society, because the clergy play a great role. And today the issues of corruption, I believe, would also be dealt by the clergy who would preach this in churches and in the mosques. That will make it a quite reality in there. Now that is where we're going. That's where we have been seeing the Director for Ethics and Integrity are coming out to also make sure that they continue talking to the people, and also the clergy also in there, and also to rally the masses behind whom they lead in there, to sort of make sure that this is quite possible, and also a quiet move, which I believe, if at all we put the clergy at forefront, that would make it a quiet success. At the end of the day, that will be a reality also to make sure that the masses move out of the issues of poverty. And if at all we continue utilizing the clergy who preach and also whose ideologies are very much heard by the masses, definitely we are going to be seeing people moving out of the poverty line, and that would make it a quiet reality. And at the end of the day, we will see each and everybody be in the money economy. And that is where I want to ask the government to put these religious leaders at the forefront, and that would make it quite possible. And now, as we get summarized this hour, court orders government to enhance pay of legal officers is another story we are seeing on the paper this morning, where a court in Kampala has ordered the government through the Public Service Ministry to pay 7 police officers and their others within the category of legal officers all salary arrears resulting from the underpayment of their enhanced salary. And that is one thing also we are seeing, where High Court Judge Musa Sekana quashed the decision of the Ministry of Public Service to revise the salary structure of the police legal officers down also rewards below the enhanced salary scale in there. And now that means the smile should be coming onto the faces of these legal officers, because justice finally has been served to them, where they are going to be receiving their money also as it is. And now the court also declared the decision of the Ministry of Public Service to revise all the salary structure of the police legal officers was unconstitutional and was illegal as well. And now that's the kind of reason that it was an act of bad faith by some officials in what we call the Ministry of Public Service to use the circular standing instructions against also a presidential directive to deny the applicants their increased salary in there. Now the court decision followed a case in which 7 high-ranking serving officers of also what we call the varying ranks sued the government over the manner in there. Now that's where we did see officers including Christine Nanding, Fred Paul Mirondo, Catherine also Kamishera, Stephen Ibanda Kagoda, Victoria Rosemary Kirunda, We do have officers like Jimmy Chepkurui Sunu and Stella Ninsima Rabuka now also really going to be getting justice, and where the money should be paid to them at the end of the day month in there. That's why BDC Court had that in 2008. A policy was approved to enhance the salary of lawyers working with the government as a measure to also control the exit from public service to join what we call private practice, and also to attract professionals to government ministries and departments and agencies in there. And that is quite good move. And today we have many lawyers who will not want to wish, and also wish to join forces because of the money, and they feel to be as private players, they are going to be getting more money in there. And I really want to say, to leave these people's money unenhanced, definitely we are going to be seeing many people also not joining police, and that will also really affect the judicial system within the police service. And that's why we're saying court also had that their salary as always being also in tandem with the ODDP in accordance with the presidential directive, and this created a genuine legitimate expectation which cannot also be frustrated, and without according them their applicants their money is also in there. And that is where we're going to be leaving a discussion with, and I hope you as the viewer also really can be able to share your thoughts and opinions on some of the matters that we are discussing this money in there. What do you think about enhancement of the salaries of the legal officers within the police force? Is it a good or bad move? Share your thoughts and share your opinions onto our comment sections. For you watching us via YouTube, drop it there, and you who is watching us via Facebook, as well as rush to our comment section and drop the comment in there, and I will be in position to also go through it later on. And for those who are on X, feel free to also drop the comment in there, and I want to say I will be in position to still go through that later on. For now, we are going to be taking the final commercial break that will be ushering us into the last half of today's show. For now, I'm out, as I will be bouncing back shortly from now.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and limited passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from the short commercial break into our last half of the discussions, as we are going to be letting you know what continues to make rounds in the world of sports and international as well. And that is where we want to be now beginning of our discussion right from Bukedia, where Museveni pushes for regional integration. And now the President, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, has urged East African countries to focus on also producing products and selling them also within the expanded market in the region. And now the President made the remarks also yesterday after officially also kicking off with the 21st edition of the Federation of East African Secondary Schools Sports Association. Games also taking place in Bukedia Comprehensive, that's in Bukedia District, and that's where we did see the event. Also marked the beginning of and the commissioning of Bukedia Comprehensive Sports Park, a multi-purpose sports stadium built by the Speaker of Parliament, that's Right Honorable Anita Mong, where Museveni also used the equation to emphasize the importance of regional integration and self-reliance, urging East Africa countries also to focus on producing integral products and expanding their market in there. And that is one thing also where we did see him also commending the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Anita Mong, for establishing the stadium and praising her for being industrious and developmental in there. And now he asked other leaders to emulate the example of promoting regional development and the local economy in there. And if at all the Speaker can be able to sort of do what she has achieved within the minimal period of time, that means each and every leader will also do that. But we are not saying that it should also be through corrupt ways, because corruption has actually landed people into trouble. You may dip your hand where you're not supposed to dip into, and that is where we're saying just because you want to sort of be praised as a leader, you would land in trouble. But we are saying to avoid that, you must make sure that you can be able to lobby from outside. You can also lobby from Parliament, and that would also make it quite possible. And after officially officiating the opening of the stadium and launching the Fiesta Games, Mr. Museveni applauded and addressed locals in a rally at Konguza High School grounds, where he emphasized the need for Ugandans to get into the money economy through commercial agriculture. And he convinced the people to support and also embrace the government programs such as Paris Development Model and the Myoga, as he also said this will defeat poverty. And speaking at the opening ceremony, Mr. Ogwang, the Minister of Education and Sports, say the country is fully prepared to host the tournaments in there. And now about the Fiesta Games, somebody may be asking, what about the East Africa Games? What are they? And I really want to say at one point Arua also had hosted these games, and that's where we did see countries also coming in and also see how they can also be in this part in India. Now this year's Fiesta Games is jointly hosted by Uganda, by Amus College also and Bukedia Comprehensive, and has brought together at least 3,000 participants from Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, Burundi, Kenya, and also the event will be running until the 27th of this month, and this is the 7th time Uganda is hosting the Fiesta Games, with Museveni also being the first ever head of state to grace it in there. Now we did see David Odut also reporting that in there for also the stories in there. But really we see that happening, and we can also say the Fiesta Games are quite interesting because people get to move from one country to another. And my school also, one of the schools I did go to, was actually a privilege of also winning, that is the handball tournament in these games. That means these games are quite interesting. We people get to also share ideas. We see our Ugandans getting scholarships in Tanzania. We see Tanzanians also getting scholarships in our Ugandan schools. That is the quite good move. And the Pan-Africanism we talk about today, and we see people when it reaches higher institutions of learning, people get also the scholarships to study university here freely. And also we get Ugandans who get chances of studying the university in there, because we see very many games being part of also the Fiesta Games, where we have football, we have netball, we have handball, we have volleyball, we have basketball, and many, many others. And not forgetting athletics. And all those are part of the Fiesta Games, where people are actually awarded, people win medals, people get monies for their schools. And that means we need to also embrace that now. President was the chief guest, that's of this opening of the 21st edition of the Federation of East African Games, where he actually kicked the ball, and that's sort to roll the official opening of the game. And that is one thing also really which I want to say is quite good, because these games come with opportunities for the hotels which are around. We are going to be seeing them getting monies and food for hotels within Bukedia right now. I want to say is going to be money, and so actually going to be money for them, and other activities. That means as locals, we must come with also the other activities. We must come with our art, and so that we can sell to these visitors. And when they go back, they should also buy that. And now for people of Kedia, they should need to identify which products also identifies them. If at all it is art, let them come with artwork and craft also which they can be able to sell to these people who are going to be coming from other countries, so that so they can be able to get them. And let us tap into that opportunity, which is for business already in there. And that is one thing also really which I feel I need to also keep you reminded of. And now receiving also the sad news this morning from Attorney General Kidu Makubia dies at 75 years old. Is another story that we are receiving on a sad note this morning, where former Attorney General Kidu Makubia has died. Family sources have confirmed that. Makubia, a professor of law and former Dean of School of Law at Makerere University, has died after a lengthy illness in India. He was 75 by the time he dies. And in June, local media widely reported that Professor Makubia died, but before the family coming out to confirm and clarify that he was battling ill health, but he was still alive in there. Now, but the former Education and Sports and General Duties Minister breathed his last also in the early hours of today morning. And the late Makubia was Attorney General, the Attorney General from the year 2005 to 2011, during also one most trying moment for Uganda's politics in the emergency of multipartyism, and Dr. Kiza Best just already being in there. Now, as Attorney General, Makubia tried to enable the Electoral Commission to block Best's 2005 nomination, calling the then FDC party president less innocent because he was on criminal court remand. And that is one thing also where we did see him. And after being dropped also from the legal advisory to government position, President Museveni also had him replace Janet Mukwaya from the general duties position. That's on May 27th of 2011, before joining the murky waters of politics that would emerge also him in corruption allegations following the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Kampala, where Professor Makubia had distinguished career in academia as serving also as a lecturer and Dean of Makerere Students Law, and he had graduated solely with the first class Bachelor of Laws degree from Makerere University solely before attaining further degrees in law from Yale University in New Haven in the US in there. And that is one thing also which the late also shall be able to solely be remembered for, and that is where we lost the man in the names of Makubia, who is the former Attorney General in there. And that is also the story we did receive this morning. And I really feel we cannot also be able to solely leave that story go unnoticed in there. And that is one thing also which we need to talk about. And now looking at what is happening in the world of sports, rising STI rates among sex workers highlight public health crisis is another story we are seeing in the past morning. Now that means for those who are the consumers of these products, we are saying Uganda is facing an escalating public health emergency as sexually transmitted diseases surge among female sex workers, a group already also on the fringes of society and disproportionately affected by such conditions. And also this recent data revealed that the staggering HIV prevalence of 33% among female sex workers, far exceeding the national average, and the alarming rise in STDs is compounded also by Uganda's ongoing economic challenges, which have also driven many young women into sex work as a means of survival. And today many young girls actually do that. And today we also have young girls who are into prostitution not knowing that they are prostitutes because they feel they need to survive from money from boyfriends, and in exchange we see them giving out their bodies. That means prostitution is really a reality, and modern prostitution is actually happening. And today you see people doing business online. That means we as parents, we need to also have time with our daughters. Let us continue to sensitize them, because just through a phone call we are going to be seeing our daughters engaging that. Let's mind and also see how where our daughters are going and who they are relating with, and what are some of the things that they're actually doing, other than also leaving them just to also stay like that. And that is one thing also which I feel at the end of the day where we need to sensitize our daughters on. And on one of the most significant hurdles is the lack of access to consistent healthcare services, despite also the efforts by the government and non-governmental organizations to provide essential services such as condom distribution and regular testing, and the spread of STD among also the vulnerable population remains critical. And that's why we did. Without this, also we are likely to see an even greater increase in that in the STD rates also in there. Now the Uganda AIDS Commission has reiterated the urgent also really need for comprehensive healthcare services tailored specifically to the needs of female sex workers. These include only medical care, but also really what we call social support systems that can help them navigate the challenges and also they are faced daily in there. That means we need to continue talking about these issues, because this is not a narrative, it is a reality that is also continuing to happen also within our society. But how do we make sure that this also does not happen, and really at the end of the day we don't also see our young girls engaging in this bad activity? And that is where we are saying we need to have time. We need to continue talking to our young people so that they not also get to suffer at the end of the day also in the hands of also such matters in there. And that is where we're going to be leaving that discussion aside as we get to move into some of the stories that continue to happen elsewhere in there. Now with this school detains over 275,000 school, that is one thing we're seeing, where school detains students over shillings 275,000 tuition balance is another story that we are seeing also already as the schools nationwide started breaking off for second term holidays on Friday 14th. A 14-year-old student, also senior student of prominent school with campus of Kampala Masaka Road, were detained by the school management over 27,500,000 debt. That's another story we are seeing, where this incident happened on Saturday as the second term of the school closed. The girl, also whose girl's mother, Mr. Diana Kagwa, a businesswoman, was informed that the school administration that she was not in position to raise the money, and also moment and asked them to let the daughter come home for holidays, but that did not also go well. Now the single mother of 3 cents, 2 of her children to the schools, and she says now she says that now to complete the money, she was not able to raise that money. Now over 275,000 to complete the school fees amounting to 1.6 million for other also in there. Now the daughter was arrested, but now how do we make sure these schools do not also arrest the learners there, because the learner is actually innocent. The learner does not pay the fees for themselves. It is the parent maybe whom you should have arrested. Now the school secretary accused Ms. Kagwa of being rude while also asking for her daughter in. Now Ms. Nur Nachibuka, a human rights lawyer and deputy also executive director of that Center for Health and Human Rights and Development, said also condemned the detention of the minor and saying also this is really unacceptable. And she advised the school should agree with the parent on payment terms, including withholding a report card until the outstanding fees are paid up. But because these are not also what they are doing is illegal. And really, are we going to be seeing this daughter and this learner now return to this school given the kind of treatment where we're now seeing the parent and the school management authority disagreeing? At the end of the day, are we going to be seeing that happening? Definitely, I'm saying no. And now they just understand also that mother had also had to look for at least 100,000 before the school could release her daughter. Later that day at around 6:30 p.m. by press time, we couldn't get also comment from the Education Ministry spokesman, that's Dennis Mugimba, as he is also known funds were unreachable in there. But how do we make sure that such issues not happen? And that's the school authority. How do you arrest a minor, a 14-year-old girl who is supposed to be in school, really, who is supposed to be home for holidays, just because the parent failed to raise the 275,000 school fees balance? Quite unfortunate and quite embarrassing as well. But how do we make sure that this does not happen? Because this is a reality, this is not a dream, and these are things that continue to happen in our societies. And at the end of the day, that is where we are also saying that this should also not happen. And because if at all this happens, then we are going to be seeing also that happen, also that also leave many people also in suffering in there. That's one thing also which at the end of the day, which I feel I need to also keep you reminded of, because if at all we not also talk about it, then definitely that is where we are going to be seeing that happen. Now crossing across borders, as South Sudan says compulsory cargo tagging to stay. This is now coming from South Sudan, where South Sudan says exporters of cargo into and out of its territory must tag with special seals, as it will also provide overriding court challenge mounted by traders to oppose the move in. Now the new directive comes 5 months after Kenyan clearing and forwarding agents moved to court to also compel South Sudan authorities to suspend the introduction of second cargo tracking seal. Now where we're seeing now Juba directing East African countries to comply with immediate effect. And in a notice also issued on August 13, Dr. Daniel Konater, the South Sudan Revenue Authority Commissioner for Cooperative Services, informed all stakeholders in Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania also that to tag goods destined to their country, alongside also really the requisite also electronic cargo tracking note also in there. Now SSRA said all taxpayers and also clearing and forwarding agents and transporters, including non-government organizations involved in moving cargo, detained to and also from South Sudan, should attach South Sudan also regionally recognized electronic cargo tracking seal that would be allowing that the other providers to move. In March this year, SSR introduced its tags to offer regional electronic cargo tracking system, where more than $350 per consignment is being charged. It caused protests among stakeholders and also clearing edges in Uganda, forwarding edges to move to court. And however, High Court has already sitting in Mombasa declined to stop the authority from implementing the order. In now this week, Kenya International Freight and Warehouse Association Chairman Mr. Roy Mwathi said we negotiated for collection of funds at Nimule instead of solely at Mombasa. It was a relief of clearing and forwarding agents, and really today you see many traders are going through a lot as their goods solely face being cleared as they get to move also into these countries. And in Nimule, which is actually bordering South Sudan with Uganda, many of the traders also already are counting losses in there, and others already find it difficult to cross with the products. And today you see people who are coming from South Sudan complaining that the goods also that they were coming with are being taken at the borders. How do you make sure that people find also the payment of this on them, resulting also to find it very difficult to pay that? And at the end of the day, I feel that shouldn't be the case, because as we talk about Pan-Africanism and as we talk about the East African nation, how do we make sure the region also what we call one kind of tax, and also how can we speak the same language as we get move on also with these issues in and there? And that is also something which at the end of the day I feel will be quite well, because if it's not quite well, then definitely we are going to be seeing also many people also go through a lot of suffering, and that would also subject people into what we call abstract suffering in there. And at the end of the day, that would also make it quite difficult for people to shoot. So maybe realize the kind of the East African community we want, because our head of state, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, was actually pushing out for regional integration over the weekend. But now, if we have such issues arising, how are we going to be also already affected by that? Where also I feel at the end of the day that would be quite well, and for us to also understand that would be the dream also we want also attain as a nation. And now, Chinese to boost technical and vocational education is another story we are seeing, where high-level Chinese delegation by the Uganda Institute of Information Technology and Ministry of Information and Communication Technology and National Guidance and collaboration at the Tibet in the country. Expertise in vocational education, our Ugandan youth with practical skills, critical solely for economic growth and employment solely opportunities in there. And now the principal of UICT, Mr. Frederick Edward Kitogo, say that they would like to share the biggest of also China also has since they are interested in ICT's digital transformation, and that's one thing also we did happen. And added that student and faculty exchange is also one of the targets, whereby we shall all be having students also thereby also gain a tangible experience in there. That means that would be quite well. Now the delegation members, Mr. also who Yafei was already there to also make sure that also happens in there. And at the end of the day, that would also really make sure, as we talk about Eastern community, that would also really make sure we get the skills on producing products that would also be accepted in other parts of the country. That means if at all we have the skills, which China should also make quickly, and that's where at the end of the day we are going to be seeing many people also really getting the necessary skills that they want to get. And if at all we empower the youth with skills, definitely issues of unemployment are going to be addressed, and we are going to be seeing also really ourselves already being landing into the money economy, and that will also be quite well. And leaving that aside, heading to Somalia, Somalia executes 10 Al-Shabaab insurgents, according to information police. That's what we are seeing, where Somalia's semi-autonomous state of Puntland has executed 10 fighters from the Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab on Saturday, and the region's police said in a statement, and that's where we did the execution by firing squad. What happened in Galkayo in the state also Madung region followed a trial of the fighters in the military court authority, where they were sentenced to death for involvement in assassinations and bombing in several locations in Galkayo. And police said the executed fighters were previously sentenced to death by the Supreme Court authority of the armed forces after they were found to have committed murders in the cities of Galkayo in there. And really that's one thing so we did say, and Al-Qaeda linked with Al-Shabaab insurgents have been fighting for nearly 2 decades, aiming to topple that Somalia's central government and establish their own rule based on the group's solely strict interpretation of the Islamic also Sharia in there. That's one thing also which we are saying, but how true is that? These are things we need to understand, because why are these people fighting? We need to understand what has pushed them into also in those those insurgents in there. That's solely something at the end of the day, which I feel calls for what we call thorough investigations in there. And we are leaving that aside, but we can also really able to confirm to you that at least 10 militant groups of Sabab have been killed. That is also really through firing squad in there, and that is one thing also really which I feel I cannot be able to leave unnoticed as we get move on with the show, because many issues continue to happen. And leaving that aside, as we just left about 7 minutes to end with the discussions, Tanzania is set to gain from Uganda's groundbreaking electric bus plant. And today, you remember, Uganda is actually on the move to manufacture its own cars. And among the cars that Uganda is manufacturing is actually buses. And now Tanzania is well positioned to capitalize on the opportunity presented by East Africa's first ever electric vehicle manufacturing plant in Uganda, as the country has reliable power supply and abundant deposits of iron, coal and strategic minerals. And at the end of the year, Uganda is expected to launch its first also manufacturing of its kind of bus, and that would also really be of a benefit. And the milestone has been globally lauded due to its significant reduction, that is, of carbon emissions, which adversely contribute to climate change, and the region also transition to clean energy in there. Now the world targets zero carbon emissions by 2050 by implementing different initiatives, including the investment in the manufacture of electrical vehicles. And Uganda is actually going to be manufacturing electric vehicles, which I feel at the end of the day would be also really good for the country in there. Now Kira Motors Corporation, a government entity also really based in Jinja, manufacture electric vehicles, believing that Tanzania also really has significant potential to benefit from the different aspects of the value chain, also due to power reliability and abundant resources such as iron, coal, and many other critical minerals. And Tanzania's potential has increased, and also after Julius Nyerere's hydropower project commenced operations solely, and the abundant mineral deposits could also provide minerals solely such as nickel, copper, cobalt, among others, solely for the country. And this is solely essential for the manufacture of electric vehicles, batteries, which also the Kira Motors company currently also imports from China in there. And that would also be quite simple if at all we imported that from Tanzania in. Now delegation visited the factory where they also had an opportunity to learn about the factory's operations and also conclude the state of the art, which was typical African and Ugandan. Now he said Uganda had been spending over shillings 2 billion on fuel imports and expressing hope. However, also domestic manufacture of electric vehicles was being also expected to reduce imports in there. That means if at all as Uganda we manufacture our own vehicles, then issues of importing vehicles from Japan, from China are going to be reduced in there. And it added that the e-mobility expo, which gathers transport sector holders, policymakers and investors, is taking place on Friday 16th August, would also be an opportunity, which took place on Friday 16th of August, is also an opportunity for the delegation to view the vehicles and grab investment opportunities for the country in there. And that is where we are going to leave our discussion with, and now to look at what is happening in the world of sports. And I want to say many issues going to also happen in the world of sports, where in the world of transfers, former Arua Hills Sports Club player in the names of Rashid Kaoa Olu, common known as in the region, has now moved to Express, and that is also really where his stay also really with the Arua Hill Sports Club, which was demoted, also really ended in there after also really a short stay also in the region in there. And now he has joined Express Football Club, and he will be also really a player also really in the names also really in the club on the squad of our Express Football Club in there. And in the world also really of English Premier League, we did see the league returning on Friday, and also on Saturday we did see games going on. And on Saturday we did see Ipswich Town being beaten by Liverpool 2-0. Arsenal also did go on to beat Wolves by 2-0. Everton also lost, that is to Brighton, in 3-0. So in there, where Newcastle United also really picked a win, that is against Southampton. Nottingham Forest drew with Bournemouth, and we did see West Ham also really losing, that is to Aston Villa by 2-1. And we did see also games happening on Sunday, where Leicester City also where we did see also Brentford also beating Crystal Palace by 2-1, and Chelsea losing to Manchester City also really by 2-0 in there. And I want to say Haaland is back also from where he left, and today we are going to be seeing a game also that's on card, where Leicester City will be taking on that Tottenham Hotspur. And more details to what also continues to happen in the world of sports will be coming through from 2 to 3 p.m. Owen Zaga together with Linda Suzy busy, will be also in position to give you that. And remember, also in the course of the day, we shall be having other interesting programs where shortly after now, we shall be having the Elders and News team with Fete Manuel, who is also already going to be joining us at 9 o'clock. And after 9 o'clock, we shall be having the Northern Request Hour. Olivia, together with DJ Jero, will be coming through. And later on, we shall be having the Lembangea and many other programs also already that will be coming your way in the due course of the day. My name is Farish Majid. I really want to say I have also already come to the end, officially to the end of the discussions for today, and I will be bouncing back tomorrow for the Tuesday edition, where I hope it's already you will be also in position to also be part of the discussion here. For now, I stop here and paving way for the Elders News team, and I want to say a good morning to you and a good week as well. And I want to wish you a good week as we are starting, because on Monday we need to solely pray that the week ends very well for us. Have a good day.